Good afternoon. Today is April 19th, and today I'll be continuing to be talking about the coronavirus. So the first piece of news that I like to talk about is that school cafeterias are now feeding whole families. So after the coronavirus shut down America's education system, districts fortified their school meals program to ensure that their most needy students would stay fed. 1 month in, school leaders have realized that the federal government programs set up to subsidize meals for tens of millions of students cannot meet the demands of emergency that has turned the cafeterias into food banks and even community kitchens. Sorry. So I'm actually quite familiar with this, as my school has also been providing lunches, but very few people have gone in. Maybe it's because I live in a neighborhood where most families have enough food and money to feed themselves. But in counties all across America, it's obviously not the same. And several districts are now feeding adults and sending days' worth of food home for entire families. However, they're doing so at a cost that under federal rules they will not recoup. The nation's 12 largest school districts will spend 12 to 19 million through the end of June to meet the demands of their pandemic meals operations. And this is clearly a large burden for the school district, as apparently the federal government will not give money for the school districts. So basically the school districts are kind of doing this themselves. The organization is trying to help school districts. The Urban School Food Alliance is pleading for relief from Congress, the Agriculture Department, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They have also set up a donation page to help districts cover costs. And now food workers are becoming one of the most first responders in this outbreak, as families go jobless. They also desperately need food, and this is a good idea to provide whole families food, but it is costing the districts a lot of money. So the second thing that I like to talk about today is that in India, unexpected volunteer efforts to enforce the lockdown is risking stoking divisions and xenophobia. So volunteer rice patrol squads are popping up across India in neighborhoods and imposing extra rules and sealing themselves off. In rural areas, there's some cases where people carry sticks and pockets full of nails for puncturing the tires of cars. They seem suspicious. So India currently has the world's largest lockdown of 1.3 billion people. Some people, I think, are just going above and beyond the rules. In one case, a son turned in his own father for stepping outside, and families in West Bengal state who wanted to maintain social distancing asked their loved ones to sleep in trees. This is absolutely horrifying, as neighborhoods are requiring citizens to download the government's official coronavirus app until residents complained there was invasion of privacy. And the volunteer efforts could help India protect its people, given its weak healthcare system, but the enormous population and packed slums leaves many susceptible to outbreaks, and the measures are going a bit extreme. So in one community in southern India, upper caste residents recently dug a 5-foot deep trench around the homes of Dalits, the lowest on the caste ladder, to keep the communities separate. So I think some people are using this pandemic as an excuse for purposely racism, sexism, or something like that. And especially Muslims, a large minority in the Hindu-dominant land, is facing a lot of attacks. When before the pandemic, they were already facing attacks, but now even more so. And I think this is just a case of where people just are going beyond what is needed to do so. The third thing I like to talk about is crisis in America. So before the pandemic, millennials and older members of Generation Z were increasingly choosing smaller metro areas. So they were basically moving out of large cities such as New York or Los Angeles. And what is happening, why it was because Major urban centers were losing their appeal for Americans as skyrocketing rents and changes in the labor market show that, well, the job pay is basically around the same for the entire country. Now, with the pandemic, the virus was particularly devastating to America's biggest cities as the virus found ground in density and spreads easily, including New York, the epicenter of the outbreak. Large cities have suffered a lot of losses. And now the future of life in America's biggest, most densest city is unclear because mayors are warning of drops in tax revenue from joblessness, and public spaces have become danger zones. Now more people, because now they have been working remotely, are just wondering should they move out and whether they need to live in the middle of a big city after all. I personally would love to live in a large city, as I'm currently living in a place we call suburbs, but many people are worried about the expensiveness. It's really expensive to live in a big city, and now that they're working remotely, they can see the reality of just working in a smaller town and avoid from the high cost and high stress which come from big cities. That's it. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day.